The desert had gone still. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Colton Hayes stepped out of his yellow Jeep, squinting into the endless Mojave heat. He'd taken a wrong turn off Route 66, but he wasn't worried. Until he heard it, a scream. Sharp, human, close. His pulse spiked as he sprinted across the sand, the sound already echoing through his ribs. There she was, kneeling, barefoot, her skin ghost-pale against the sun-baked earth. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, hands trembling as they gripped her leg. That's when he saw it, the unmistakable bite just above her ankle, and the sinuous trail of a rattlesnake disappearing into the brush. She turned her head toward him, her eyes glassy with pain and fear, but still trying to stay in control. "Don't let me die out here," she whispered. Colton didn't hesitate. He dropped to his knees beside her, his fingers already reaching for the bandage roll he kept in his back pocket. "You're not going to die," he said firmly, even though his stomach had turned to ice. He wrapped the bite, checking her pulse, keeping his voice low and calm while hers stayed silent. She wasn't panicking, not on the outside, but something in her eyes looked fractured, like she'd been running long before the snake ever found her. When she finally spoke again, it was barely a murmur. "Sam," she said. "My name is Sam." That was all she gave. No last name. No reason for being alone in the desert in nothing but shorts and a thin white shirt, with no shoes, no phone, and no water. It didn't make sense. Colton had seen hikers get lost before, sure. But she wasn't lost, she was hiding. As he lifted her into the Jeep, she winced and turned away. He could smell something soft and expensive clinging to her skin, perfume that didn't belong in the desert. The kind that cost thousands. Everything about her screamed money, but her silence screamed something else entirely. Guilt, maybe. Or grief. They drove for a long time without speaking. Just before they reached the outskirts of a forgotten town, she turned to him slowly and said, with a voice like gravel and regret, "You shouldn't have found me." Colton didn't answer. He just kept driving. But something in his gut told him the real danger hadn't been the snake. If that opening gave you chills and you're dying to know why Sam was running, and what Colton ends up uncovering out there in the desert, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. This story is just getting started, and what happens next will keep you hooked until the very end. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the twists that are coming. Colton kept his eyes on the road, but every few seconds he glanced at the rearview mirror. They'd been driving for nearly an hour, and he couldn't shake the feeling they weren't alone. The desert highway was empty, but something gnawed at his instincts, that prickling on the back of his neck, the kind you don't learn from books, but from life. Sam hadn't spoken since her warning, and the silence inside the Jeep was almost louder than the wind outside. She sat curled up in the passenger seat, her legs stretched over a towel, lips pressed into a hard line. Colton wanted to ask who she was running from, or what, but every time he opened his mouth, something about her expression made him stop. There was pain in her face, yes, but also calculation. Like she was choosing every word, every breath, as if any slip could cost her everything. At a gas station near a deserted stretch of Joshua trees, Colton pulled over. "We need to clean that bike better," he said, gently. Sam didn't argue. Inside the restroom, he washed her wound while she leaned against the wall, silent. When their eyes met in the mirror, something shifted. Her voice came out small, but sharp. "Do you know how to keep a secret, Colton?" He blinked. "That depends on how dangerous it is." She didn't smile. "It's very dangerous." They left the gas station with a silence that felt heavier than before. The sun was beginning to dip below the mountains now, throwing long shadows across the road. Sam watched the landscape like it might come alive at any moment. Colton could feel her unease, like static building in the air before a storm. Half an hour later, headlights appeared in the distance behind them, just a pair, steady, following. Colton checked his mirror again. The car was too far back to be a coincidence and too close to be casual. He glanced at Sam. Her face had gone pale again, this time not from the snake bite. She saw it too. "Keep driving," she said, voice flat. "Don't let them see you noticed." Colton didn't ask who. He just tightened his grip on the wheel and pressed down on the gas. In that moment, he knew, whatever he'd stumbled into wasn't over. It was just beginning. They arrived at a run-down roadside motel just after sunset. The neon sign buzzed faintly in the warm desert air, half the letters flickering out. Colton chose it for one reason only. It looked like the kind of place no one would think to check. As they walked toward the room, Sam's limp had worsened, her body leaning slightly into him. He didn't say anything, but his mind was racing. Every instinct screamed that the headlights behind them hadn't been random, and whoever was following them hadn't turned back. Inside, the room smelled like dust and old air conditioning. Colton closed the blinds tightly, checked the door lock twice, then turned to her. "You want to tell me what the hell is going on now?" he asked, voice low but firm. Sam didn't answer right away. She sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes distant. Then, barely audible, she said, "If they find me, they'll make it look like an accident. Maybe a second snake bite. Or a car crash." Colton stared at her, heart pounding. "Who are they?" She looked up at him then, really looked. Her eyes shimmered, not with fear, with fury. "My father's company. Or what's left of it. My family built half of Silicon Valley. But after my dad died last year, things got complicated." Her voice cracked, but she pulled herself back fast. "He left everything to me, billions. But I found out someone inside the company forged documents, moved assets offshore, erased digital records. I tried to expose it. The next day, my apartment was broken into. My phone's been cloned. I'm not even sure who I can trust anymore." Colton let out a breath, pacing once. "Jesus, Sam. This is bigger than I thought." "I didn't mean to drag you into this," she said softly, looking down at her bandaged leg. "I just needed time. I thought I could disappear long enough to figure out what to do next." From outside, a soft creak echoed under the gravel, the sound of a car door closing somewhere too close. Colton froze, then stepped to the window and peeked through the curtain. A black SUV had just parked 2 rooms down. Tinted windows. No license plate. "Stay low," he whispered. Sam's face drained of all color. "They found me." Colton moved fast. He grabbed his duffel bag from the floor and pulled out a small pistol. Old, but reliable. Sam's eyes widened at the sight of it, but she didn't question him. There wasn't time. The sound of footsteps echoed outside, deliberate and slow, crunching gravel with a rhythm that felt more like a warning than an approach. He killed the lights and motioned for her to hide behind the bathroom door. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. Sam didn't argue. She limped away quickly, shutting the door behind her. Colton stood beside the window, back to the wall, heart hammering as the footsteps stopped just outside their room. Then a knock. "Come." Confident. It wasn't a motel employee. "Room service," a voice called, too cheerful to be real. Then silence. Colton's hand tightened on the grip of the gun. He could hear someone fidgeting with the doorknob, testing it. "Locked." Another voice spoke now, lower, closer to the door. She was seen entering this room. "Don't play games. Open it." Inside the bathroom, Sam covered her mouth with both hands. Her body shook as she tried to remain still. Every sound outside that door dragged her deeper into panic. Not because they might hurt her, but because she knew exactly what they were willing to do to anyone who got in their way. Colton didn't know what he was up against. She had to protect him, even if it meant stepping back into the fire. But before she could open the door and give herself up, something unexpected happened. From the parking lot came the sharp crunch of tires spinning in gravel, then headlights cut across the motel wall. Someone had pulled up fast. Another door slammed. A man shouted, not at them, but at the men outside their door. Seconds later, Colton heard running. Then silence. He opened the front door slowly. The SUV was still there, engine running. But the men were gone. Across the lot, a dusty Ford pickup idled near the office, a shadowy figure behind the wheel. "What just happened?" Sam asked, stepping out cautiously. Colton looked back once more before shutting the door. "I don't know who that was, but whoever scared them off bought us time. Not safety." Sam sat on the bed, face pale. "They won't stop." Colton nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we don't stop either." The power went out just after midnight. 1 second the room was lit by the flickering motel lamp, and the next, darkness swallowed everything. Colton's body went rigid. He reached for the drawer where he'd stashed his pocketknife and flashlight. Sam was already sitting up, her breath shaky, her silhouette frozen like stone in the blackness. Outside, footsteps crunched over gravel. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. Colton clicked on the flashlight and aimed the beam toward the door. It was still shut, for now. He moved to the window, crouched, peeled back a corner of the curtain. The SUV was still there, and next to it, a man stood alone. Tall, suit jacket flapping in the wind. His head was tilted slightly, like he was listening for something. For them. Colton pulled back and turned to Sam. "Is he one of them?" She nodded slowly. "His name's Roland. He used to be head of security at Whitmore Technologies. Now he does things off the books." Her voice was tight, trembling beneath the surface. "He threatened my godmother last week. Said if I didn't stop digging, they'd bury me where no one would ever find me." Colton's jaw clenched. "Then we're not staying here." He grabbed the keys from the nightstand and helped her to her feet. Her leg was swollen, and she stumbled as she stood. "I can move," she insisted, gritting her teeth. He believed her, but only just. As he cracked open the bathroom window, they heard the door handle rattle. Once. Then again. A third time. Harder. Then silence. They squeezed through the back window into the alley behind the building. Colton first, then Sam with his help. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. From behind the motel, the desert stretched into shadowy openness, scattered with scrub brush and low ridges. The jeep was parked at the far end, tucked near the fence. They ran for it, barely breathing. As Colton turned the ignition, a distant voice shouted from behind them. "Stop!" A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, chasing them as tires spit sand. Sam ducked low in her seat, and Colton hit the gas harder. The engine roared as they sped off into the desert night, headlights off. Sam clutched the dashboard with white knuckles. "They won't stop now," she said. "They know I'm close to something." Colton glanced at her, jaw tight. "Then it's time you told me everything. What would you do if the power went out and someone dangerous was at your door? Do you think Colton and Sam will make it out alive, or is Roland already one step ahead? What secret is Sam still keeping? Drop your theory in the comments. The best ones might get featured in the next episode. The desert night stretched endlessly before them as Colton drove with headlights off, guided only by the pale glow of the moon. The air inside the jeep was tense, heavy with things unsaid. Sam sat still, her fingers pressed against her temples. She hadn't spoken since the chase, but Colton knew she was unraveling. And he couldn't wait anymore. "You said I needed to know everything," he said quietly. "So tell me, who exactly are they trying to silence?" She took a long breath, her voice barely above a whisper. "My father had another family. A secret one. No media ever found out. Not even my mother knew, Or maybe she pretended not to. He had a son, older than me. His name is Landon. She paused, eyes distant. When my dad died, Landon showed up at the will reading with forged documents and a team of lawyers. Said he had a right to half the estate. But something felt off. He didn't want the money. He wanted the company. Colton frowned, glancing at her. And the board believed him? Some of them. Enough of them. But I didn't. So I started digging. Financial records, emails, security footage, everything I could find. And I found proof. Landon was working with people inside the company. Selling technology overseas. Things that aren't even public yet. Defense-level tech. My father never knew, but I did. And once I had the evidence, I disappeared. Colton's hands tightened on the wheel. So Roland's working for Landon. Sam nodded slowly. He's the one who helped erase me. My bank accounts were frozen. My apartment was cleared out. Emails hacked. I barely escaped. The snake bite? That wasn't the worst part of this week. Not even close. They drove in silence for another minute before Sam turned toward him, her expression softer, more vulnerable than before. I didn't mean for you to be a part of this, Colton. You were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He shook his head. No. I think I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The Jeep rolled to a slow stop near an abandoned trailer at the edge of the desert, a place Colton remembered from years ago, hidden, forgotten. As they stepped out, the wind picked up, and Sam looked at him with something close to relief. But before either of them could speak again, Colton's phone buzzed in his pocket. A number he didn't recognize. And a single text that froze his blood. She's lying to you. Colton stared at the message glowing on his phone. She's lying to you. No name. No context. Just that. He turned the screen away before Sam could see it, but his pulse had already changed rhythm. The quiet around them felt different now, charged, like something sacred had been disturbed. Inside the trailer, the air smelled of rust and dust, untouched for years. It wasn't much, a sagging couch, an old stove, peeling wallpaper, but it would do for the night. Sam limped toward the back room without a word, leaving Colton alone in the darkened kitchen. He leaned on the counter, staring at the message again. Who had sent it? How did they get his number? More importantly, why did a part of him believe it? When he finally stepped into the bedroom, Sam was sitting on the edge of the mattress, the bandage on her leg now stained through. We need to change that, he said. She looked up, and for the first time since he met her, she hesitated before speaking. Her voice, when it came, was quiet. I wasn't running just from Landon. There's something else. Colton sat across from her. Then say it. Her eyes darted away. There's another document. I didn't just find proof about Landon selling tech. I found out who helped him. And it wasn't just people inside the company. It was people in government. Names that would destroy careers. Maybe worse. She swallowed hard. I copied the files onto a hidden drive, encrypted everything. That's what they're really after. Colton ran a hand down his face. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was national. Maybe even global. Why didn't you tell me this before? He asked, not angry. Not yet, but colder now. Sam's shoulders tensed. Because I didn't trust you. Then softer. Because I didn't want to trust you. Silence pressed between them like a wall. Colton stood and paced the room, every thought louder than the last. He wanted to believe her. But he couldn't ignore the message, the half-truths, the way she looked away when things got too real. Then Sam's phone buzzed from the nightstand. One notification. One name. Landon. She didn't touch it. Just stared. And Colton, this time, didn't ask. The air inside the trailer had turned dense, like a storm waiting to break. Colton stood by the window, arms crossed, watching shadows shift under the moonlight. Behind him, Sam hadn't moved since Landon's name flashed on her screen. The silence between them wasn't just uncomfortable. It was dangerous. It held everything neither of them was willing to say out loud. Finally, Colton spoke. "You said you didn't trust me. That's fine. But if we're walking into something this deep, I need to know if you're still hiding anything else." Sam lifted her eyes, but didn't answer right away. There was a weight in her gaze that hadn't been there before. Not fear this time, but shame. "There's one more thing," she said. "I didn't copy the files. I have the originals. The physical documents." Colton turned slowly. "You mean to tell me, this whole time you've had them with you?" She nodded, reaching into her duffel bag. Beneath a change of clothes and a first aid kit, she pulled out a thick envelope wrapped in plastic. "I didn't know who to give it to. And after the break-in, I figured, if I disappeared, so would this." Colton stared at the envelope. "You're not running anymore, Sam. If they find us now, they'll take that and bury us with it." Her voice trembled. "I know." She looked at him, truly looked. "But I can't do this alone." He walked toward her, slowly. "You're not alone. Not anymore." And for the first time, Sam allowed herself to believe it. But just as she exhaled, just as the weight began to lift from her shoulders, the trailer window shattered. Glass sprayed across the room as a bullet tore through the pane, embedding itself in the wall inches from Colton's head. He threw himself down, grabbing Sam and pulling her to the floor. She screamed, clutching the envelope. More shots followed, quick, sharp, practiced. They were under attack. Colton's voice was hard, urgent. "We have to move. Now." Sam nodded, heart hammering, blood running cold. As Colton opened the back door, ducking low, she turned to grab the envelope, but it was gone. Someone else was inside. Colton spun around, heart racing, eyes scanning the shadows of the trailer. Someone had slipped in, silently, skillfully. The envelope was gone, and Sam's breath caught in her throat as the full weight of it hit her. "They were already here," she whispered. "They were watching the whole time." From the far end of the hallway, a figure stepped forward. Tall, clean-shaven, expensive coat draped over a black button-down. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't need to. His presence was enough. "Hello, Samantha," the man said calmly. Her knees buckled. "Landon." Colton stepped between them instinctively. "You've been following us." Landon smiled. "Of course I have. Do you have any idea how much trouble she's caused? Billions in contracts, years of development. All because little Sam couldn't keep her nose out of places she didn't belong." Sam stood up straight now, jaw clenched. "You sold our company's defense tech to a foreign buyer. My father would have had you arrested in a heartbeat." Landon's eyes went cold. "Your father trusted the wrong people. Just like you are now." Without breaking eye contact, Colton reached behind the couch and pulled out the handgun he'd seen earlier, left by whoever had broken in before. "Where's the envelope?" he asked. Landon shrugged. "Gone. And without it, your word means nothing. You're just a disgraced heiress and some desert mechanic with a hero complex." But Sam smiled, small, tired, certain. "We backed it up. Twice." Landon's expression cracked for the first time. He turned toward her fully, voice sharp. "You're bluffing." She didn't blink. "Then go ahead. Kill us. Just know you'll be hunted for what's coming." A second passed. Then another. Suddenly, from outside, the screech of tires and the blinding flash of headlights lit the trailer from end to end. Colton moved fast, grabbing Sam's hand, pulling her toward the back door. Behind them, Landon shouted something, but it was swallowed by the sound of sirens. 3 unmarked vehicles skidded to a stop outside. Agents in tactical gear poured out. Sam looked at Colton in disbelief. "You called them?" Colton didn't answer right away. He was still catching his breath, still watching the door in case Landon made one last move. Then finally, he looked at her. "I didn't. Someone else did." The sun was rising by the time the chaos settled. Landon had been taken into custody, silent and expressionless as agents led him away. Colton stood beside the jeep, watching the flashing lights fade into the desert behind them. Dust hung in the air like a memory, unsettled, not yet ready to land. Sam sat on the back bumper, her wounded legs stretched out, eyes swollen from the weight of it all. An agent had confirmed what she already suspected. The second copy of the documents had been sent to a trusted federal contact weeks ago, not by her, but by her godmother. "She didn't trust me to be safe," Sam murmured, almost to herself. "She did what I couldn't." Colton joined her, offering a bottle of water. "You weren't wrong to run. But maybe now, you don't have to anymore." She looked at him, and for once, didn't flinch. "I don't even know what my life is anymore. My name, my family, it's all built on lies." He nodded slowly. "Maybe. But not everything was a lie." He gave her a long, steady look. "You were real, out there in the sand. You didn't pretend to be someone else. You didn't have to." She smiled, weak but honest, and leaned her head against his shoulder. The desert was quiet again, but something had changed in the stillness. Not everything was fixed. The world didn't suddenly become safe. But for the first time in days, Sam didn't feel like she was being hunted. She felt seen. Later that morning, as the jeep rolled toward the highway, Sam turned to him. "What now? Back to your garage." Colton glanced at her, his hand resting easy on the wheel. "Maybe. Or maybe I just keep driving. There's more out there than broken engines and lonely roads." She raised an eyebrow. "You planning on bringing a fugitive heiress with you?" He chuckled, then turned serious. "Only if she wants to come." She didn't answer right away, just looked ahead, eyes squinting into the light. Then she reached out and rested her hand over his. "I already did." If you made it this far, then something in this story must have struck a chord. So go ahead and hit that like button. It helps a lot and lets us know you want more stories like this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Turn on notifications, because there's a lot more coming. And trust me, each story will stay with you long after it ends.